So at this point, we have basically our little interface created. And so our next step is to set up some interceptor classes. And we're going to create classes that Entity Framework's going to call every time it needs to send a query to the database. And because Entity Framework is calling the classes before it sends the query, it is called or referred to as an interceptor class. And we're going to create a class to simulate errors. And then we're going to do another one that's going to log the errors. Interceptor classes have to derive from DB command interceptor. And we're going to create some method overrides that are automatically called when a query is about to be executed. And so in these methods, we can examine or log the query, and we can change the query before it's sent to the database. We can also set them up to return something to Entity Framework ourselves without even passing the query to the database. So basically, we're doing this so that we can simulate some errors. Otherwise, you're you're kind of at the will of Azure as far as whether you're going to get errors or not. So we definitely need to do some simulating because it's best to test the errors before they occur in live production. So, so far our process, just kind of to recap, we created the interception interface, we implemented that interface, and we created our two interceptor classes. Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to end up having to do is update our global asax file because it needs to know about the two classes. Okay, so you can see that we are defining them here. And you can see that the route config that we've looked at in the past and the bundle config is in here. So we're going to be adding our interception classes here as well. These particular lines of code are important because they're actually what's going to cause the interceptor code to run when Entity Framework attempts to send our queries to the database. Now, another option as far as adding the interception commands would be to place them into a configuration file, a little separate file. And you can see that this set execution strategy file that we created earlier, you could put them in there. You do not want to put them in both places. If you put them in both places, they are going to run more than once. So basically, you would pick a spot and put the code in that particular location. Another important thing to note is that these interceptors are executed in the order of registration. So basically, the first one, the one that basically simulates the errors, is going to run first before the one that logs the errors, which makes total sense. Okay, so the order is important as well.